I think we are live. We are live, and we are live. And Chantal is doing her. I don't know. Is that the
That's
crowd goes
crowd
wild?
noise. That's crowd noise. Yeah,
I know. Oh man! Wow!
The
Wow!
crowd
Yeah,
goes wild.
that's the crowd going wild for Chantal. You know, as
You're
kids, you
welcome.
say all the time. You know. Anyways, what's up, Chantizzle? Chantelli, aka Chantel, really aka Chantelli. But we back, y'all. What's going on, Chantelli? Tell the people what's going on.
I do not go by any of those other names. I go by Chantal.
We're gonna see today. We're gonna see today. Okay. So don't trip, potato chip. Yeah. So let's get started. We're talking about Dave Chapelle being canceled. Being canceled.
You can't cancel Dave Chapelle. It's impossible at this point to cancel Dave Chapelle.
They're trying. They're definitely trying. One thing I've noticed is that after the Closer segment, if you guys don't know, he had a Netflix special called The Closer, where he discussed a lot of the transgender issues that were going on that he's noticed because he has friends that are transgenders and stuff like that. And they pretty much tried to boycott him from Netflix, which the CEO of Netflix was like, nah. But what happened after that whole thing was he had a movie coming out, and a lot of the people weren't actually accepting his movie to be produced in a lot of their studios and all these other places. So he kind of had to go out on his own and make his video to the public by like paying out these theaters to show it for like a few days here and there throughout the United States. So he was kind of getting blocked to some degree. But I want to know, what do you feel about that, Chantal? Hearing about Dave Chapelle potentially being canceled in some right. What are your thoughts?
So the first thing I want to say is that the movie that you're talking about, he had made this documentary film about the shows that he had put on in his hometown, because he lives in like Ohio, some really small town in Ohio. I think it's Ohio. Okay. And he was putting on like these comedy specials, and he was having like artists come out in his hometown during COVID, right? Okay. To put on these shows. And it was something that he was doing in like a cornfield or something. So the documentary, or the movie that you're talking about, is a documentary of that process, if I'm not mistaken, that he wanted to show in different places.
Right.
So I just want to talk about how dope that is for a second. Like, we're talking about a guy who literally put his hometown on, right? And you can imagine the revenue that brings into small businesses.
Real talk.
The economic power that he brought into that city just based on his presence and him wanting to do something nice for the community. So there's that. And then at this point, as far as his specials go, I don't even think at this point you can even really call Dave Chapelle just a comic. Like, at this point, bro is a social scientist. Because I can make the argument that these last stand-up specials that he's done on Netflix, right? I think there's 2 or 3 of them. Yeah, these ones that he's done on Netflix over the last few years have led up to this last special, right? You can see that, how they all work together to lead up to this last special. And I think very clearly he says in this last special, he's like, my issue has never been with the LGBTQ population, right? Like, I don't have a problem with that. My issue has always been with white people. And it was a joke, right? Like, it was kind of like a punchline and a joke, but he explicitly says it, right? So I think anybody that tries to cancel Dave Chapelle, is an idiot, because you're talking about somebody who walked away from a multi-million-dollar deal, right? Like, you should tell you can't cancel this brother because he doesn't give a shit about your money, and he's not going to be censored, which is beautiful. Right. So the very act of them trying to cancel him is stupid. The second thing is that Netflix produced this special, so Netflix knew what he was going to say before they put it out, right? They had probably seen it in its entirety before it aired on Netflix, right? And Dave Chapelle knew. He said it explicitly in the special that he was going to get pushback from people who didn't watch it. So then when he finally speaks on it, he's like, I will talk to anybody, but I have one request. Look at the special.
Three requests.
Just watch it, right? And I'm sure if you watch it, then I have no problem, you know what I mean, talking to you and standing behind what it is that I said. So I think that Dave Chapelle did this specifically for us, because what he's saying is, why is it that I say one thing or somebody says one thing about this community and it's taken as me being a bully, you know what I mean? And me pushing down on them, and I can immediately be canceled. But you could say whatever you want about Black people.
And
nothing. Nothing. No canceling. We're not threatening people's livelihoods and things like that. I think he even made a point about the baby who actually killed somebody, right? And they're like, we're not going to cancel him, though, right? Like,
I mean, it was a joke. But, I mean, it's a joke. But, you know,
all of it was a joke, but it's coming from this very real place of like the way the world operates.
Like
right?
how someone's feelings being offended is much more tragic than somebody actually dying, essentially.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or like the perception of whatever the hell. You know what I'm saying?
People took the baby joke out of context, because like I looked at the story, and what happened was he was defending himself and shot somebody in the store. And I guess like something happened, altercation. That I don't know if the guy pulled a gun on him, but he shot the guy and killed him in Walmart. It was like he got acquitted of all the charges. No charges on him, nothing like that.
Right.
But it was like a not like some crazy scenario like he went and shot somebody. There was a real scenario that had justification to it. But people took it like out of context, like, which I understand it was a joke. Like, you know, he's trying to make a point about the situation with the joke. But I personally, I really love Dave Chapelle because he's just not afraid of being canceled. He doesn't care that you
can't cancel a man that already walked away from millions of dollars.
And you can't cancel somebody that doesn't care.
He don't care about the money. He don't care about what y'all talking about. He seems very happy in his small town of Ohio. Like, I will just happily go there. You know what I'm saying? And kick it with my family, my wife, my kids, and just be rich. While the rest of y'all mad.
I'm just I don't like the fact of being censored. Like, I despise that part personally, because like even the people that are just shitty people, racist people, like hatred people, I'd rather you be able to say what you say.
Yeah.
And have the freedom to say it, so I can say what I say, before like anybody can tell me what I can't or cannot say. To me, that's why I don't like. Is because like it kind of puts the limits on like, well, you can say this, but you can't say this because you offend these many people. But like offending people is so subjective. Like you don't need. How can you really? Subjective. Like some person who can be a transgender will be offended by a joke, and another transgender won't be offended. So who's right or wrong? So we can't play these semantics of like, oh, like, you know, you can't say this because you offend the crowd, because you can say hello. You can say God bless you in a way that could offend somebody, because you can be like, God bless you. And then like, oh, what the heck you just say? Like, you know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of things you can say.
That's a fact.
And be offended by it for absolutely no reason. It just depends on your day. What if you're just in a bad day, so it offended you, and the next day you thought it was funny? So like, to me, I hate the fact that they're trying to censor people. They also did with Donald Trump with the social media and stuff. I'm like, to me, it's just crazy. Like, I'm just saying,
find a way to put Donald Trump in this conversation.
What are you talking? No, I'm just saying, like, it's the principle of freedom of speech is what I'm talking about. Like, I don't like the fact you can't censor. I'd rather not censor anybody, and let everybody say what they're gonna say and be you, bad or good, than to try to censor somebody because you think it's wrong.
It's just a double. Listen, I hear what you're saying about.
To me personally,
I hear what you're saying about the freedom of speech and censorship as a whole, right?
Yeah, because I don't want to count on Dave Chapelle because of something he said that was offensive.
But what we're doing is we're examining this double standard that exists when it comes to censorship, right? Why is it that, you know, freedom of speech is expressed when it comes to the Confederate flag, you know what I mean? And we're talking about the racist parts of our history that are still up on display, you know what I mean? And a large portion of the country versus, you know, Dave Chapelle in a Netflix special. And in my opinion, he said a lot of stuff, but if you watch it, all of it is calculated. You know what I mean? Everything that he's saying is extremely calculated, which almost makes you wonder, like, he's not saying this stuff to hurt anybody's feelings. He's not saying this stuff to make anybody feel bad. He's saying this stuff to prove a point, right?
Yeah,
which is that you can say whatever. If you say whatever you want about Black people, then it's not a thing. We're not coming after your livelihood. But if I mention something, if I just mention something, if I bring up something about one specific community, then all of a sudden I'm punching down on them. And then you have the power to come back and threaten my livelihood, right? So censorship is skewed in this country. And I think that is the point that he's making.
And I think, that's the biggest thing, because if you really look at it, it's not a lot of people being offended. It's just a couple groups that are really trying to take this. If you really look at it, he talks shit about everybody. Like, I mean, all types of people: white, Black, Asian, rapists, sexists, bigots, transgender. But the only ones that are really taking it up is one particular group, the Alphabet Gang. But I just think it's kind of bullshit, because I just thought it's funny. Because, it's funny. I was watching this video, and it was like a bunch of trans people. It was like a mix of trans people, like a bunch of like homosexual people and straight people. They're in like a group, and then there are like, I don't know if the acronym is, it's LGBTQ like plus two ways. Some 2 ways. They did a poll like, does anybody agree with adding more letters to the plus 2A and da da da?
I think that's why the plus is there. Isn't that the plus there to include like the others?
First it was just LBGT. I mean, it was just LGBT, and then it went LGBTQ, then it went to Q plus, and then it plus.
And then there's like a 2S for the Native American folks.
S something. It's just like I just don't get it. Oh, we gotta comment, bring it up on the screen. What says? Let's see what it says. It's coming up. Nobody should be offended. He makes jokes about every race, color, and creed. Exactly. Yes, Ken Miller. I agree. Like, that's the point. Like, you can't really be mad if he's saying something about everybody. It's not like he's over here. Put this back. It's not like he's over here saying about one group only. He talked about everybody. And that's the other thing. Like, you can't choose who you can talk about and who you can't. Like, I'm sorry. In my opinion, anything could be funny, anything could be shitty.
Yeah, that's the purpose. First of all, like that is the purpose of comedy, right? Like, that's literally
to talk shit. And his jokes,
it's an art form. Like, comedy is like a literary art form.
That's like boycotting.
I guess when he does
music, that's like boycotting music. It's like, bro, you can't really boycott music because you don't like it. It's just expression of art. Like, so it just doesn't make sense.
It's like, so let's look at comedy, the art form as the comedy genre as an art form, right? Like, it comes down to like satire, right? Yeah, which satire is like this over exaggeration and making fun of like criticizing people's stupidity and their vices. You know what I mean? Like, that's what satire is like this over exaggerated version, you know what I mean, of calling attention to making fun of stuff. So
I agree.
That's what it is by definition, right? And here's the thing, man. We don't do this with white people.
What do you mean?
We don't do this with white people. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, we don't hold white comics, you know what I mean, to that same extreme. And white comics talk about crazy shit too. You understand what I'm saying? Because that's what the art form is. That's literally what it is. So I think that we have this thing, and especially in the Black community, and I want to bring this up because I was listening to a podcast with two women. I'm not going to say their names, but two women that I like their opinion. I'm not going to say I agree with everything they say, because I don't think I agree with everything anyone says. Okay. But
is this people? Have you know these people, or they're just more like people you just found online?
No, just people like I follow, right?
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
And
not who they are.
The question was like, what do you think about Dave Chapelle's special? Right. Okay. And then the lady was like, you trying to get me in trouble. But basically what she said was, and I don't want to.
Okay, go ahead.
I don't want to take away from her point in any way, because I think her point is valid. And basically what she was saying.
What was her point? And then say the point that you like maybe had a.
Okay. So basically what she was saying was that there are Black people in these communities that he's talking about, right? In the LGBTQ plus population, right? Okay. And if your goal is for the people, then you have to acknowledge the Black people that exist in these circles, right? The intersectionality approach, right? The intersection between these two things. and understand that even the Black people in the LGBTQ population are going to be treated the worst, right? And I believe that, right? They're gonna be bullied the most. They're gonna have the hardest time accessing things. Like they're going to be criticized and ridiculed the most.
Okay.
I believe that. I believe that. I don't want to take anything away from that point.
Okay.
However, the very fact that you brought that point up means that you missed the point, in my opinion, of his special, right? Like you missed the point of what he's trying to do, right?
Okay.
Like you completely missed it.
Okay.
You completely missed it. And we do this thing in the Black community where we hold our comics, our musicians, our artists to a level that we do not hold any other race to, right? To the point where white people don't do that to their artists, to their comics, to their comedians, right? You would never, it would be ridiculous if white women blamed white drug use, right, on punk rock, right, on rock and roll, right? Like nobody does that. Do you understand what I'm saying? The same way that we can say that Black kids are violent because of the rap music.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying? Nobody says that white kids are on drugs because of Aerosmith, right?
Because of the music they listen to.
Because of the music. Nobody fucking says that, right? Because it's an art form, right? And they have the right to express their opinion in their art form, right?
Okay.
It's not an issue.
Warranted.
But in our community, when we express our opinions in our art form, there's some pushback. It's always something that they did wrong. It's always something that they didn't understand. You know what I'm saying? And we can never just take the art for what it is.
Well, when you say they didn't understand, what do you mean? I'm a little. You said that it's something that they don't understand. What do you mean? Like, who are you talking about? Are you talking about like Black people, or white people, or in general, the whole thing? Like
in general, in general.
Because I wouldn't blame rap music. I wouldn't blame any kind of genre on it, but I wouldn't say that it helps either. So I wouldn't make it say that's the blame, but I wouldn't say it's not decreasing the problem of the stuff we're talking about.
Well, why can't the art just be the art? Why can't it be what it's used for, right? Which is enjoyment. You listen to music to enjoy it, not for it to teach your children, right? Like the purpose of music is to be enjoyed and to be listened to. Do you understand what I'm saying? But it's not used as a point of instruction for kids, is it?
I wouldn't say so.
No,
I mean, maybe some kids' little songs, but not like really.
No. Just like comedy, right? Like just like Dave Chappelle's comedy is an art form, right?
Okay.
Why is it being used? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Right. Okay, I understand that. Well, I gotta tell me show these two comments. So Kim Miller said white comics have to walk on eggshells too, no cap. And then the other comment was he said, but they do say white kids carry guns because of video games. And I've actually
white kids carry guns because of video games.
I've heard that before in general about people carrying guns because of like the video games they've been exposed to, which I think is a load of crap in my opinion. I don't think it's because of video games. I don't necessarily think it's because of music, but that's also to say that. I mean, I guess the question is, do those things influence people's behavior? Is the question. That's really
no. That's not the question.
That's really the question.
Well, I mean, I guess it could be. I think the point.
Does music influence people's behavior? Does comics influence people's behavior? Does video games influence people's behavior? Does watching certain videos influence behavior? Because, I mean, to some degree, not saying that it's necessarily true, but the statement has some truth to it. That these things do influence us, but maybe not to the degree of what we're saying it is. Like, for example, just because you play video games doesn't mean you're going to go shoot up a school. Just because you listen to people talk about drugs doesn't mean you're going to go sell drugs. Right? Oh, I think you froze, Chantal. Oh,
I didn't freeze. I'm
okay,
here.
And I was making sure you were listening. Like you were stuck. Like
I'm here. Like to me, the question is like, do we hold? Why is it that we hold our artists accountable for those things? Like, why can't we? First of all, why can't we separate the art from the artist? Right?
Yeah,
white people do it all the time. And why is it that we hold our people to a higher standard? Why can't it just be a funny comedy special? Do you understand what I'm saying? Why is it something that why is this something that he can be canceled for where his livelihood could be threatened?
But who is actually who are the people that are trying to cancel him? Is it a race of people, or is it a class of people? Is it a subsect of gender of people?
I think it's the LGBTQ people, the trans people. They're saying that he is like punching down on the trans community. Those were his words.
They also said the same thing about, I don't know, I don't really watch the comic. His name is Bill Burr. He's a white guy. He says like really offensive stuff, apparently. I don't really watch him. I just heard about him. Like he's kind of like up there with Dave Chapelle, kind of, in that kind of lane of like saying crazy shit. And I know they're trying to cancel him too, but I just don't agree with the whole canceling somebody because they're saying something you don't like. To me, that's bullshit. Like, what's the point?
Agreed.
Like, what's the point of having like these platforms if you can't say what you want? Like, what's the point? And how do we decide what's hurtful and what's not? Like, how do we decide for everybody what's hurtful and what's right?
It would be impossible for somebody to come to that decision, right? Like, it would be impossible for somebody to come to that decision.
Yeah, but you say anything about COVID, you get banned. If you say racist, you almost get banned. Like, there's words you can't even say because they flag a whole algorithm.
Because
it like almost rewards you. It's just I just don't like people getting canceled in general. I just think the whole thing of being canceled is just the stupidest shit in my opinion. Like, I don't care. Like, if you go do something to somebody like physically or, you know, that's different. But I think Dave Chapelle said it the best. He said, I didn't know. He said, I just didn't realize that America turned into a bunch of bitch ass niggas. And I thought that shit was so funny because I'm like, damn, everybody is just so fucking like that shit was like one of the best jokes. I'm just like, that's some true ass shit because everybody gets offended by everything for no reason. Like you looking to get offended. It's like you look to get offended. Like, let me find what I'm going to be offended today. Let me find something to be offended today by.
Watch the comedy special, and he like if you watch it, he tells you. Like if you watch it, it's almost like he mirrored this to happen. You know what I'm saying? Like watch, like if you look at the comedy, he's making a joke about it.
Yeah, all the things he said all up until the other specials led to this point. It was like you said, it was really calculated, and he knew what he was doing. And what he was actually doing was trying to open the conversation of the hypocrisy of everything.
Yes,
that's really what it was. If you just listen to it, if you take away your emotions, take away your feelings, look at the facts. That's what I want everybody to do.
You said that beautifully. He's exposing the hypocrisy of everything. You said that beautifully.
All these people, even including black people, everybody. It's not like one group was out of it. It was everybody. And that's what I think that's what people, this is my opinion. That's what I think people lack, is they lack the being able to take your emotions out of a situation and then look at the facts and say, what is it? Not what you heard, not what you feel like. Just look at the bare bone, what it is. Just look at that and then pay attention. Because the thing is, when you listen with your emotions, you're interpreting a different message than what the messenger is saying. The problem is, if he says a joke about the trans, they're not listening to what he's saying. They're too busy being mad and then trying to find ways to demonize them because they're not listening.
The first, hold on, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But wasn't the first comedy special in this series him talking about Jussie Smollett? Jussie Smollett. Isn't how this started?
Yes.
And isn't how this started?
Oh, hold on. We got to talk about that. That is
how this started with Jussie Smollett, right? And here's the thing,
because his name really sounds like Juicy when you read it.
His name is I think his name is Jussie Smollett.
But when I googled it, I was like, that doesn't look like Juicy though, Loki. Like
J-U-S.
Hey, that story was hilarious, by the way.
Listen,
I gotta talk about that guy too in a second. But
and he did some straight up dumb shit. Like,
yeah, he did.
What I'm saying? I don't remember. I don't recall the backlash. If there was any backlash from his first special, Dave Chapelle. Knowing Dave Chappelle could have been. I don't know if there was any.
It was, but it wasn't to this level. It was,
but it wasn't to that level. And I think the reason why it wasn't to that level is because Jussie had did some really stupid stuff. Right? Like he faked himself being beat up, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he
faked himself being beat up, right?
So
to America, right? Or to, you know what I'm saying, the group that wants to be outraged, I don't know how outraged they was by that, right? Because we can all agree that it was some bullshit, right? Which just exposes the hypocrisy. Either I'm punching down all the time or I'm just punching down some of the time. You know what I'm saying? Like, which one is it?
Or it's not, you're not punching out, you're just calling out the shit that doesn't make sense.
But then again, if we look at it again, Jussie Smollett was black, right? So then it's like, well, you can say what you want about him, right? But the rest of us, shut up. You know what I'm saying?
That's the bullshit. That's what I don't like.
That's the hypocrisy.
The problem is that we can only say stuff about certain people. And you can't say about it. That's the problem. That is the single-handed problem. I should be able to say whatever the fuck I want. And so should everybody. I think
you could talk about black people. You could cancel all the black people you want.
But that Jussie Smollett is really funny because, like, because he had made
just the way he says his name is hilarious.
I know, but the points he made, I thought it was really funny, and I didn't really notice until after he said it. He said there was really not a lot of black people saying much about it because we all knew, like, hold up, this doesn't make no sense. Like, hold on, like, like, because I know it's black. There was no black outlets were talking about it. It was just kind of like in the news. It was like, this is weird. And then when he explained the story, he was like, the story goes, he went outside at 2 a.m. and 2 white guys with mega hats came up and says, "What are you doing out here, N-word? And you know, you don't want you in this kind of parts. We saw you want you." And they called him a homosexual and all these other names and said, you know, you're on that show Empire, right? And then they beat him up, apparently. They beat him up, left, then took some, I think took his phone or something, and then left, right? And this is not the first time he's been in the news. There's another thing I go, there's another one. But anyway, so Dave Chapelle was like, wait, first of all, what are you doing out at 2 a.m. walking? Number one, which one, you might have a reason.
Maybe
number two,
maybe he was drinking or something.
Maybe, like I said, warranted. But number two, if 2 white guys are really that racist, they're not going to watch Empire. They're not going to know who the fuck you are. Like, that's a black show.
I don't know. Empire was a very good show.
Not for racist white folks. They ain't going to want to watch that.
I mean, who knows? Maybe racist white folks probably love black people.
I don't think
like they love the culture that black people, they love black culture. Let me say that.
But I don't think they're going to watch that. If they hate black people, why are they going to watch and be like, oh, it's just
because they love black culture.
But maybe not in that sense.
Okay.
To watch a TV show, right. And then think about it. Think about it. It was a lot. There was some homosexuality in the show too. So you think, then the words everybody like in the news, cis white males are going to be watching a black show with homosexuals, and then watch it enough to remember who they were, find out where the guy lives, and then go try to say something to him in the middle of the night when he just happens to walk out. It's kind of funny. Okay. Kind of funny.
The whole thing was hilarious.
And then it was like in the middle of winter, so it's snowing outside. Like, it was like, what? Like, but there's another, I don't think it was him. It might've been him. There's another guy, and he had made another claim. And I guess he says the video starts, he pulls up in front. I think it was Jussie. I really think it was Jussie. Don't quote me. I'm gonna look it up to find out. But he goes up, the video starts, and he's talking to this white woman. He's talking to this white woman. He has a camera, like he's talking. He was like, yeah, that bitch called me a nigga. She called me a nigga, something. That's her right there. And she's like screaming like, no, I didn't. I didn't even say that. You're gonna let me ruin my life. I didn't say none of this. And she's like petrified. This lady's literally like
losing her mind.
Like she's like scared. Like she is like in like full fear, like shock mode, and she's like tripping, like, I did not say that. Why are you lying? I mean, she's going, and then he's like, yeah, she called me. He says he called me. She flipped him off in the car, and then she called him the N-word in the car, right? And then he drove to her. He followed her to her house, apparently. And then when the video starts, the first thing he's saying is like, you cut me off, bitch. You fucking cut me off. You want to fucking flick your finger off at me? What the fucking bitch? I know where the fuck you live. I'm going to flame your ass down. Da, 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 da. And then he goes to proceed to say, hey, and then somebody walked by, and then she was like, no, she called me a nigger, something like that. And I'm like, hold up. This is why I believe this story is bullshit. Why would you lead with being cut off if someone called you the N-word?
Well,
why would you lead your story with, she cut me off is why I'm mad, and not the fact that she called you the N-word?
I don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't know.
Think about it. If you got cut off and somebody called you the N-word, would you be focused on getting cut off, or would you be focused on the fact they called you the N-word?
Whatever happened first. Like, if she cut me off and then, like, in pursuit of the cutoff, she called me the N-word.
She cut you off.
This B-word cut me off, and she called me the N-word.
No, but all he was saying for the first like 2 minutes was like, this bitch cut me off and she fucking flipped me off. I saw this bitch. You want to get away with that? You didn't gonna. That's all he was saying until somebody else walked up and was trying to like figure out why the hell you yelling at this lady, and then he pulled that out. So I'm like, hold up, you wasn't mad at all before that point about that? So you had like 2 to 3 minutes of talking shit about all the other shit you said, but the N-word. To me, that's just, it's kind of fishy in my opinion.
So he was lying. That's why you.
I think he was lying because I look. I've been called the N-word. I've been called the N-word by a few white people in my life, and I'm telling you, at least from my experience personally, and none of the other shit matters. Like when that shit drops, it's like, you know when you're in a party and like that shit's like that, bro. It's not like you know,
when that shit drops
over here. No, that shit's like an instant, like, oh, no fly zone, right? No fly zone. But to me, I thought that shit was bullshit. But I really think it was juicy. I think it was juicy because like if it's him again, I'm like, this is just crazy. Like you can't believe this guy at all. He's just a liar. Like he's a
liar.
But yeah, but going back to Dave Chapelle, like I just don't agree on being canceled. And even the Ice Cube thing when they try to cancel him for going to do the thing with Donald Trump. I'm just like, this is to me like trying to cancel somebody.
Yo, that was black people trying to cancel Ice Cube. Now that's worse. All right.
That's crazy.
Listen, if white people or the LGBTQ people want to cancel somebody, that's their business. Right. But us canceling us, like we got to stop with that nonsense. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know how like you have family or like really close friends where if they say something out of pocket, like you're not going to correct them in front of everybody. You know what I'm saying? There's that thing where you just take them home, and then when you get home, you don't you ever, you know what I'm saying? But behind closed doors, like that conversation happens. That's how we need to be as black people. Okay, as black people, as the black community, I need to see a level of togetherness to where if one of us, right, that we know is for us, okay, and I say for us,
okay,
y'all understand what I'm talking about. Okay, one of us who is for us, who has showed that they have an intention and a heart to move us forward as a people. That's what I mean by for us. Okay. And they say something that you don't like, do not attack them publicly. Don't attack them publicly. Don't do it. Just wait. If you have access to that person, reach out and say, you know what, I was actually thinking like, I wanted a little bit more of an understanding of what it was that you were trying to say. You understand what I'm saying? Like we don't need to do that to each other, especially if whoever it is has a heart to move us forward, right? Because then we have to judge the intention behind what it is that they're saying. Whether or not you agree with it or not doesn't matter. If the heart behind it, if the intention behind it is to move us forward, to elevate us, then we need to figure out how to come together on that shit. Right.
But that inherently is the problem right there as well, because we don't all agree with the same methods of moving forward.
It doesn't matter. We don't have to agree. That's the point that I'm making. We don't have to agree on the method of how to move us forward. All that we have to agree on is that we need to move forward. Right.
I understand.
How?
But if somebody
we can debate the how and the semantics of it later.
Yeah, but if somebody were saying something that's contrary to what black people would say, then they're going to be called a coon or something like that, or they're not for the black struggle, or you know what I'm saying? So like, I understand.
What it is, or what are you saying? What are you saying? Are you saying something that makes us look bad? Are you perpetuating stereotypes like black on black crime? If so, yes, be quiet, right?
Okay, but see, and that's where the issue lies, because you can't tell someone to be quiet because that's their experience. It's like. Well, if I agree
perpetuating stereotypes is their experience.
No, I'm saying if I agree with what you're saying, then say it, and if I don't agree, then shut up. But that's how people feel about the situation with Ice Cube. So it's like you can't be that way. Like we got to take it all or none, because you can't sit there and decide whose way is the right way or wrong way. Because someone might be saying, you know, this is perpetuating a stereotype, and someone's saying this is illuminating a stereotype that we could change. And
my
that's
counter to that would be,
uh-huh.
that there are some people,
Mm-hmm.
and one person comes to mind, even though she's not my favorite person. And I have in the past agreed with some of the things that she has said.
Uh-huh.
Um, again, we're judging this by your intention, by your heart. Is your heart to move us forward? You know what I
Right.
mean? But in
Right.
order to do that, but again, this is where your point is valid and taken seriously, is because, you know, your ideology for why we need to move forward is important.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's something that needs to be talked about. But like, I don't think we should cancel anybody, even if they don't agree or they don't have the right message, or maybe they're naive or
Agreed.
immature in the struggle. It's like it's like being
Agreed.
a new Christian. You know, someone
We
becomes a
shouldn't be
Christian and
canceling people.
they're like, oh, like, you know, I read like 5 scriptures and I'm gonna tell you what it's like. I'm a Christian. And they start saying stuff and it's way out of pocket. But like, do you just counsel them because they don't know anything, or do you like help them understand? And that's where
Right.
the point is, like, I don't agree of shutting
Right.
someone up because their
Right.
perspective is different. I have a different perspective, but I don't want anybody else who has a different perspective than me to shut up. I want them to voice it.
Right.
Because the more, and that's the problem, like even with Ice Cube going to the White House, why are people trying to cancel him? It's a conversation. Why do you, like, why cancel a conversation?
You're right. You're right. You're
Like,
right.
why
We
cancel
shouldn't
a
cancel people.
conversation? I don't think anybody should
We
be
shouldn't
canceled.
cancel
White,
people.
black, Mexican, I don't
We
think
shouldn't
anybody
cancel
should be
people.
canceled. I'd rather you be who you are,
We shouldn't
truthfully.
cancel
If you're a
anybody.
racist, then I'd rather you be upfront so I know not to fucking deal with you. But
But
now you can't say shit. Then I have to figure out if you are, because you're playing the bullshit. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? And that's what I feel like is breeding this problem. Is like, we're not allowed to be truthful. We're not allowed to say the shit. And the more we say shit, the more we can have conversations, the more
Speak
we
on
can
it.
actually figure out what's going on. But the fact that every time you try to talk to somebody that you don't agree with, or you try to talk to somebody on the other side, you get boycotted or you get canceled. And it's like, it's just a fucking conversation. We're just trying to have a conversation to see where our mindsets line up or where they don't. Because if you don't talk, you ain't gonna know. And that's the biggest problem.
I hear you. 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 And based on what you just said, I am willing to alter my stance on a few things.
Okay. Okay.
I agree with you in the sense that nobody should ever be canceled, right?
Right.
And we're not canceling people based on a conversation or anything like that. I agree with you 100%.
Where's the butt?
However, what we can do, I didn't say but, what we can do.
It's same shit. No, go ahead.
What we can do is make a determination about the voices that we will listen to based on their conduct and their words. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So,
like, judge by the character of their character, not by the color of their skin.
Not judge. We're not judging. We're not judging, right? We're not judging. Okay. But we do get to make a determination about whose words mean what and the weight that we assign people's words, right?
Okay.
Now, just because somebody is famous, has a platform, doesn't mean that they're greater weight. It shouldn't, right?
Hold on. You cut out the stream.
What we should be able to do.
Go ahead.
Everybody back? We were frozen.
Yeah, we're good. You're good.
But what we should be able to do is make a determination about how we treat those voices, right? And this goes back to your conversation on censorship, and back to Dave Chapelle, right? If we decide that we agree with what he's saying, right, then you can give his voice more weight, right? And when you formulate your own opinions or whatever, you make your own decisions. If you don't agree with what he's saying, then instead of canceling him, turn him off. Right?
Yes.
Turn him off.
Yes.
Turn him off.
Yes. I agree with that.
But why do you have to cancel his livelihood? Same thing with Ice Cube. Same thing when Kanye went up into the White House and we didn't know what Kanye West was talking about. And he said slavery was a mentality and he was saying some crazy stuff that nobody quite understood. Right? You get to pick and choose what you want to listen to. Right? So if you don't like it, turn it off.
And that's really all that needs to happen. If you don't like what someone's saying, you don't got to follow them. You don't got to watch them. Just don't listen to them. It's really simple. It's really simple. But everybody makes it hard because they want their opinion to be for everybody. And that's where I disagree. Like, I have my opinions about stuff, but I'm not expecting someone to do what I think they should do. I'm just voicing how I look at it, and that's it. I'm not saying you should, you shouldn't. You should be this way, you should be that way. I'm just saying this is how I look at it, and this is what I'm doing about it. I'm not saying you should think like me. I'm not saying you should be like me. I'm not saying you even have to, or I want you to. All I'm saying is consider the idea the same way I would consider the idea you're talking. Is consider it, look at it, examine it, poke holes in it, see where there's see where there's faults. Like, that's how we move forward. Like, having a discussion, not just being, I don't like what you say, so fuck off.
Like, but that's the world we live in.
Like, let's have a conversation. Like, that's
the world we live in.
Even us, we have different opinions on things, but we discuss it. That's how we move forward.
On most
things, we discuss it. I mean, and that's not trying to change your mind. We just have discussions about it, and the things I'm like, oh, I didn't see that. I can learn.
Consider that. Yeah.
And vice versa. And that's all it is. It's not the goal isn't to change your mind. The goal is to converse, and then see, okay, that my ideas that I had, they're calling out these holes. So I need to either strengthen my idea and find out where these holes need plugged, or I can consider where they're talking back. Okay, that was actually kind of fucked up. But with the Dave Chapelle thing, I don't see him attacking anybody. He was making hypocrisy about what everybody's doing.
And made a few jokes in the process.
And that's where people got lost their mind, because they can't handle a joke. They can't handle the truth.
They can't handle an opposing viewpoint.
And it's
when
crazy.
is the last time you considered that the way you see things isn't necessarily the way it is?
Right. But I also understand why people do that. And you know why the people are like that?
Why?
Because people hold their identity based on their opinions. So, for example, I think this is a good example. Okay. I think this is a good example because it'll paint the picture really easily. Okay. Say we're Christian. I'm a Christian, right? And I grew up believing in God, believing in church,
Okay.
35, 40 years old. And this is what I knew my whole life. I based my whole life off the identity of being a Christian and being a good person and blah, blah. And then the truth comes out that, hey, this wasn't actually the correct thing, right?
Okay.
Then what happens is I don't want to admit that I'm wrong, because if I admit that I'm wrong in this area, that maybe Christianity was wrong, then all my values I built over my lifespan are potentially wrong. And now I have to break pretty much every single part of my personality because I was pushing this, and now I realize I'm wrong, and I can't handle that because I'm wrong about everything I've been talking about my whole life. So the problem with people, at least in my opinion, is that people hold their opinions like it's them, instead of just holding it as that is a subject that we're talking about. Like, I don't believe even my opinions. I don't hold them that tightly. I mean, I'm strong, or I don't budge. You have to convince me. But if you convince me, I'm good. I'll accept it. But I don't hold it as in like, I don't hold it in like the value of me. I hold it as like, okay, this is where I stand, convincing if I'm wrong. And if you convince me and you have logical data that supports it, then I'm definitely going to like change my opinion. But people don't know how to do that because they hold their opinions like they're a part of them, and they can't have that brokenness of like, I've been wrong here, which means I'm wrong 20 different places in my personality. So I think that's really why people cannot accept the truth. That's
interesting.
What are your thoughts about that when I say that? What first comes to mind? And anybody in the chat, what do you guys think about that? Do you think that could be true? Do you think I'm false? Do you think I'm just talking shit on my ass? Because that's just really what I think. And I've talked to a lot of different people.
It's interesting. And when I say that, I mean it's interesting because what is never considered, right? What is never considered is that, and I think this is a point that you're missing, which is why I think it's interesting.
Okay.
Is because what we never consider is that even in a person's belief or viewpoint, right? That nobody is 100% correct about anything.
Right. True.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, nobody is going to be 100% correct about Christianity, because I'm not Jesus. you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
about the intentions of Buddhism because,
right,
you know what
right,
I mean? You didn't create it, right? You're
right,
not going to know 100% of everything ever,
right, right. True,
ever, right?
very
The
true.
fact that all people, right? Everybody on earth is imperfect in some way. It doesn't mean that we're imperfect at some things. It means that we're imperfect at everything, right? So
Right,
everything that we learn or that we know is imperfect.
right,
And that's one thing that I think is interesting. So why are we just so quick to refute things, right? It's
right.
not, to me, it's not even a question of like, if you present me data, then I'll change my mind, right? Because it doesn't even necessarily have to come down to me changing my mind. It comes down to me considering something that I never once considered. And I think that's the problem. People are so close-minded to the idea that they themselves do not know everything, right? And
Mm,
they are kind of immune to this idea that somebody could possibly know more. You
mm.
understand what I'm saying? Or see things differently than you see them. And just because they see things differently doesn't mean that their viewpoint is incorrect, right?
Right, right. Agreed,
Or
agreed.
solely incorrect, right? It means that parts of your viewpoint are incorrect, just like parts of their viewpoint are incorrect, because none of this shit is perfect. Nobody has
Right.
100% of the information on anything.
I agree. I agree with that. But and also that goes back to
Nobody
but that
has
goes back to that
the
that
answer to the secrets.
but that goes back to that point of no one wants to get that part because you have to change yourself. You have to accept the truth that you didn't think was true, and you may have said something to somebody, you may have done something, or you have and not even use the religion, but like you have a belief of how white people are or black people are. Like say you're a white person, you have a belief of how black people are, and then you meet a black person and they're not what you thought they were, but you don't want to change your opinion because you're so focused on not being wrong,
Agreed.
and vice versa for the black people. That's to me is where it is. Like you don't want to be wrong, and that you don't want to be wrong.
But
I
you have
believe
to
comes
consider
to,
the fact that you're already a little bit wrong.
and that's the point. But nobody wants to admit that they are wrong because they don't want to crush their
Nobody
own
knows all
value.
of the information.
But that's the problem. Everybody thinks they're right, but they don't understand that they're wrong. Also, a lot of the times, and two, no one wants to crush their own belief system. You know how
Think
hard that
about this.
is. You know how
Think
hard that
about
is to
this.
crush the things you believe in, that
I get it.
you've like built your whole self around this
I get what you're
idea
saying.
of how black people
But
should be or how white people should be or how Mexicans are. And then
consider
that's the part.
consider this.
Okay.
You, right? Or me, right?
Okay.
As simplistic, right, as that concept is, the concept of like knowing you, right?
Mm-hmm.
How long does it fucking take for you to know yourself? Do you understand what I'm saying? Like
Oh,
you, the person that you live with and wake up every day, right?
mhm.
How long does it take for you to really come to terms and understand who it is that you yourself are, right?
Mhm.
And if you can't grasp fully who you are,
Mhm.
how is it that you think you can grasp 100% of anything else? You don't even know you yet.
Right. Right.
You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like there are things about myself that I legit learned like yesterday. You know what I'm saying? Or this year. You know what I'm saying? And I think that that's a process that's going to continue to happen and develop over
Mhm.
time. However, think about that. You barely know you.
Mm.
How is it that you can know 100% of anything and you live with you? You wake up with you, you go to bed with you, you are with you all the time. And
Yeah.
you still
True.
really don't even know you like that. I mean, you're
And
getting to know you. You know you a little bit, right? But you're
and
still learning new things about yourself.
and to that point, you might change. You might feel some way when you're 20 and feel totally different when you're 30. Like that's the part we got to consider too. Like people change over time. Well, some things they do, some things they don't. But you evolve into other places in your life. So like to think it's just one way all the time is like absurd to me. But that's just how I've noticed people when I've challenged people, like even in my regular walks of life and stuff, and I see them get offended by comments, and it's like you're looking at this through your emotions. You're not looking at what I'm saying. You're just
Mm-hmm.
you feel something, and so you turn off. Even though you may say something and I don't like it, I'm still listening. Like I'm doing my best to listen as unbiasedly as I can to see where could I be wrong? Where did I miss
Mm-hmm.
some information?
Mm-hmm.
Where am I right? But I'm not trying to be right. I'm just trying to know
I
the
just want
correct
to understand.
situation. And so that's
I
what
just
that's
want to
the
understand.
Yeah, but a lot of people don't, and that's the problem. Like, people are so quick to judge or cancel you or cut you off without ever considering to talk to you and see, why did you arrive at this conclusion? And I think
But
we
then
need to
think
keep
about the flip side of that.
Uh-huh.
I've been in conversations where I've tried to understand things, and people take me trying to understand as being rude, like I'm challenging them. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not a challenge to want to ask a question, to want to understand what you're coming from.
But
you know what I'm saying?
You know why they
like
get,
I'm not.
You know why that
I'm
happens?
not just gonna take your absolute word on something because you said it. I don't know you. You know what I'm saying? Like,
you know why?
Just because you said it don't make it. Don't just because you said it don't mean it's true.
Right. But you know
Period.
why? You know why?
Why?
Because the reason why they get pissed when you ask questions, or either they do two or three things. They get pissed and they talk shit. They ask a question back to you, or they won't even answer the question, try to move the whole thing in another way.
Like the little passive aggressive thing.
Yeah. And it's because they don't know the answer either. Like, when you ask a question to somebody, you're exposing the flaws that they don't know what they're talking about. So what they do is my elbows are ashy. They block.
And put them down.
I know.
Off camera.
Right now, let me put some on. Shit, this is kind of embarrassing. I'm too black to be like this. Hold up. But no, they block. They get mad because then when you ask questions that they don't know, it goes back to the fact that they don't want to be wrong. And they don't want to be wrong, and they don't want to be exposed, but they don't know what they're talking about. And that's the problem. They'd rather be wrong. They'd rather be wrong with their pride than right humbly.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good one. See, I need these rants. See, that's a good one. But that's what I've noticed with people. And as I'm not to say I'm above that. I've done it myself too. I've caught myself in that. So it's not like I'm not saying this something I don't do or haven't done. I'm just saying I'm aware of it and working on it. But I just wish people can start to understand themselves more. So when they realize they're blocking something, why am I so against what he's saying? Did you ever ask yourself why you're against what Dave Chapelle is saying? Did you ever even ask the question, like, why do I feel so strongly about this?
Is he talking about me?
Yeah. Like, is he saying me, or is he saying people that he met that are talking like this?
They acting like he called names.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, people be getting like,
you know what I mean? Like, they're acting like he made a list of names and called their mama a hoe. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's really what they acting like. You know what I'm saying? Like, you made a list.
Hey,
you know what I mean? And they're like, Vanessa, blah, 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 your mama's a hoe, right? And then like calls another name, your mama's a hoe. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what they're acting like. And it's like, it's not, calm down.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's a joke.
Did you see that teacher that said that to that kid?
Richard Pryor made fun of black people all the time.
He did.
Like, Richard Pryor is a dope comic, and Richard Pryor made fun of black people all the time. And the shit was hilarious.
There's like, the truth is funny. I'm sorry. The truth is funny. The truth is funny. There's a lot of humor in it. But when you said your mom is a hoe thing, I was just watching this video the other day. It was a teacher in the middle of the class. And they're like, what'd you say? And then he turns around and says, whoever threw that paper at me, your mama's a hoe. And I just started dying. I'm like, how a teacher going to say that to a bunch of kids? That shit had me rolling though. Oh my gosh, that shit was hilarious. Hold on. We got a comment. Let me put it up on the screen. It says, Chantal, you had some facts wrong about the Kyle Rittenhouse thing. Completely wrong. Okay. What were the facts? I think I know one was about the weapon. One of the things I did some more research after we talked. One of the things I do.
Have an automatic weapon?
It wasn't automatic.
He did not have an automatic weapon.
No. The rifles are semi-automatic, which every single handgun in this world is a semi-automatic unless it's produced as an automatic weapon. So one did.
That's not that big of a discrepancy. But okay.
I know. But I don't know if he's gonna say that. That was just something I noticed too. Also, one thing I thought was really intriguing too, the guy he shot, apparently he had a gun too. So my question is, wouldn't the guy who also had a gun, wouldn't he be inciting? I think you said, I don't know. I think you said like, you didn't say inciting. Instigating. Wouldn't he be an instigator too then, at the same place? bringing a loaded weapon to.
But he wasn't on trial.
Huh?
Was he on trial?
Was he on top?
Was he on trial?
Oh no, no. I don't know if
you mentioned it many times. Go ahead and bring up what he said.
Let me see. Well, you mentioned it many times. He had an automatic weapon. Okay.
Okay. So he had a semi-automatic weapon.
Yeah.
Next. What was the next thing?
Oh, we'll wait to see what he says. But yeah, I just noticed that little bit. But yeah, no, I was thinking about what you said that day, and
are we going back to Kyle Rittenhouse?
Or just for a quick second, because I kind of want to.
Lord
I'm changing my opinion on something about it.
Okay.
I don't necessarily agree that he was. I don't think he was completely in the clear of the situation. I don't think. Yeah, the charges are dropped, right? And warranted. There is some evidence that shows that that he was there for other reasons and stuff. Warranted. Mm-hmm. But I was looking at the case and one thing I did notice was this. For the people who are saying it's racist because he was white and white privilege and stuff. Mm-hmm. One thing I noticed that they tried to charge him with first-degree murder. And I thought but I thought it was very intriguing because why did they pick first-degree murder?
Because they thought that they would be able to prove that it was premeditated.
You know how hard it is it's really hard to prove that. You have to have substantial evidence to prove that. So my
that was a point that I brought up. That was also a point that I brought up.
You did okay, but my theory now is that they intentionally made it first degree because you couldn't prove it, so he had to be off. Essentially,
I said that this case was I said that this case was botched all the way around because I said at the very least it's criminal negligence.
Because at the same time,
that I think is the appropriate charge.
It could technically be manslaughter. Because if they would have brought that charge, then that could actually
negligent homicide. I think I said negligent homicide.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Hold on. We got some more. Let me see. Let's see. Semi-automatic weapon is the same as any other weapon. You made a big deal about this being automatic weapon. Next one is he also didn't cross state lines with his weapon, which was a point of yours. Oh yeah. Okay, that's true. He didn't.
No, he crossed state lines and got the weapon. He obtained the weapon illegally. Did he not? Because I believe that he crossed state lines and obtained a weapon illegally.
No, I think
that to the protest.
What happened was the weapon was already in Wisconsin, and when he crossed over state lines, then he went and picked up he went to the friend, and they both got the gun or whatever, and then he went down to the protest.
So he crossed state lines to get a weapon, right? Mm-hmm. And then he brought that weapon back over the state lines.
Mm-hmm. And then hold on, let me see. Maybe this is one I just read. Let me see. He didn't. Oh yeah, said that, and then he said he possessed it legally. Yeah, because I was looking. We talked about the on that time, but yeah, he was not. He legally could be in possession of a firearm, but you can't legally purchase or own a firearm with that age. So yeah, we did discuss that too.
That doesn't make sense. If he can legally have a firearm, but he can't own or buy one. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that's true. So they have the law that with rifles, particularly with rifles, that you're allowed as a minor to be in possession of one because of hunting and game and stuff. But you're not allowed. But you can't purchase one until you're 18 or 21 or something. One of those two ages.
So he can have one as long as it was a gift.
Yeah, so you can give somebody a gun like a minor. Yeah, but you can't go buy it, and you're allowed to be in possession of one. So you're allowed to actually have one in your possession, but it can't be in your name essentially. And then let me see.
Got it.
Yeah, he said he obtained it from a friend. He didn't. Let me see the other one. He didn't bring weapon over state line. Yeah. But one thing I will say is, in that situation, people are like, why did he go there? I can't. How do I say this? In my personal opinion, I wouldn't have been there. And I don't see the point of going there. Maybe that's on your heart. I can't say you shouldn't go, but I don't understand either. To me personally, I don't understand why you needed to go there. But I can't say that you're wrong to go there. But also in the event of that happening, people got shot and stuff like this. But there was also a lot of other stuff going on because I was looking back at the footage, and there was the 2 days prior to that, there was riots going on throughout the city and stuff. And so my thing was if you're going into somewhere that's dangerous. Like, I just wouldn't put myself in that situation unless I personally had to for my personal thing. Like, now,
Now I
if
think that's
this is my
the
business or something, I would be there defending my place. But I'm probably not going to go, to my friends to defend their stuff and possibly get hurt or shot, especially with things that are going on. Like, that's how I look at it. So,
so that's the issue that they brought up with this, right? And the reason why I guess they tried to make it first degree murder was he was going there to protect a business from riots. That's not his responsibility, right? And I'm glad you brought that up because what they were saying was you go because you want to do this vigilante justice, right? Like, you want to go be a hero, take on a role that's not yours to protect people. That's not your job. It's not your role. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, you're not trained to do that, right? And because you're not trained to do that, you took on a task that you shouldn't have taken on, right? And a lot of people were comparing this to the George Zimmerman and Trayvon Martin case, right? Like, you were trying to go out and protect and control neighborhoods, and in doing so, you understand what I'm saying? You injured innocent people, right? In Trayvon Martin's case, he lost his life, right? And George and Martin Zimmerman, whatever the boy's name is, was let go of the same thing. But the issue is this issue of vigilante justice. It's the same thing with Ahmaud Arbery and Ahmaud Arbery getting killed, right? You see something, you know what I mean? And you take it upon yourself, right? Even though it's not your role, it's not your job to defend a business, to see what's going on, to investigate some shit. And in the process, these people are getting murdered and killed, right? Ahmaud Arbery was shot because these men saw him leaving what was it? A house of some sort, like a
in the neighborhood, and they start chasing
a neighborhood house, right? And they see him and they're like, oh, well, he must be doing something bad, so let me go patrol or correct the situation. Do you understand what I'm saying? And that's the issue that we're seeing here with Kyle Rittenhouse. The people Kyle injured was not innocent. That does not matter. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. I don't give a damn. I don't care. I don't care. That's not your job. It is not the job of a citizen to take the law into his own hands and kill them. That's not his job. That's not his responsibility. That's not his role. So whether or not the people he shot were innocent does not matter to me. That's like saying who the police officers killed were guilty. That's not their job. If somebody is guilty, call the police, right? Same thing with the police. If they run across a guilty person, then arrest them and take them to jail. Do not kill them. That does not give you a right to kill them.
I understand.
So that to me does not matter. Him going to protect businesses, those are not your businesses. You shouldn't be protecting them.
Hold on. I said that was a different story. He shouldn't have been shot. I think he's talking about the Ahmaud Arbery and stuff like that.
That's what I'm saying. They're using this, they're comparing this case to people taking the law into their own hands and trying to uphold or support the law. They're comparing this to vigilante justice, just as in the case of Ahmaud Arbery and Trayvon Martin.
And that's why I don't want to be mixing up different cases, because like each of these cases have different things that were involved that you can't really put the two together. Because they're different circumstances, really.
They are different circumstances, but in each circumstances, what we have is a white man with a gun killing people, even though that's not his job or responsibility, in the name of trying to protect something.
He said he didn't take the law into his own hands. He was threatened, so he shot them. Oh, well.
Okay.
And I guess for me, like I said, I think if they would have charged him manslaughter, but I think that, because it was first degree murder, it's really hard to prove first degree murder unless you have substantial proof. There has to be like evidence that's going to, say that you were trying to do this intentionally on purpose and you had a reason to do it. Now, whether it's self-defense, or he shot, however, but the point is, I do agree with you that, I guess in my opinion, I wouldn't have been there. I probably wouldn't be in that situation. Is this like my livelihood and I don't have to be there? It's not necessarily affecting me. So I wouldn't go there. It's not like it's my business. It's not like it's my stuff that, what I'm saying? So like, I wouldn't necessarily be there trying to stop people for somebody else's stuff necessarily, because I'm probably more concerned about my own stuff. So that I agree. Like, I don't understand that, but warranted though. If it was in self-defense, if it really was, he wasn't doing anything, and they just started trying to fight him or whatever. The other guy did have a gun too. It is what it is. It's unfortunate that people will get shot over this, but I do agree that, people should be calling the police, unless you're in a situation that you can't call or that you Like it's in your home and you don't have time to call because someone's in your house.
Y'all love the police so much, except for when it's time to call them. Then all of a sudden we taking a law to our own hands. Y'all love the fucking police, except for when it's time to call them.
No, I mean,
Lord have mercy.
I don't mind. I mean, I'm not saying that the police are great, but I don't mind I haven't really had that many bad interactions. For me, with the police, I've heard about stuff. I just personally haven't had any. I haven't had any really bad instances with the police, maybe like once or twice, but I honestly haven't really had any for me. I'm not saying that doesn't mean that they're, outside the element of not doing crime. It doesn't mean that they're just great. It doesn't mean that they're bad either. It just means for me. I don't experience it personally.
It's cool.
Listen, you know what I'm saying?
I told you. Yeah. I don't care.
Totally self-defense. The last one is
don't care.
He tried to surrender to the police. They drove right past him, which is strange too. But that was pretty strange too. Like, wow. That sounded really weird too. Like, hey, if you tell the police, hey, I shot somebody or two people, and they just let you go, it's hella weird.
Sound like being white.
It just sounds hella weird in my opinion. Like, but then I'm also thinking too, like in the situation, like,
do you think that they would have drove past a black man with a gun? Like, hey, I just shot two people.
No, I wouldn't try it. I don't care much like anybody. I wouldn't try that.
Hell no.
Even, I mean, I can't say because I'm not white, but I wouldn't try that black, or I just wouldn't try that in general. Look, I ain't trying to have myself get shot in any way, shape, or form. But people get shot for way less than having a gun on them. I ain't going to be the one. I'm not going to be the one to try that personally. Yeah, and it is your amendment and your right, yes, but that doesn't mean that you're going to be treated as such because you have an amendment and a right. And I think that's what we need to also understand too, is that just because it is an amendment and a right doesn't mean that people uphold that all the time. They're supposed to, but that's not the case. That's not the case. And we've seen that numerous times.
It just goes back to privilege. That's why it's hard to have these kind of conversations. You can't have these conversations without acknowledging the privilege that you bring to it. And just because something is not a problem for you, right? Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean it's not a problem for everything else. Just because it's something that you've never experienced doesn't mean it's real. And that goes back to this conversation that we're having about perspective, right? Yeah. Just because you see it some way doesn't mean that that's the only way that it is, right? And we cannot have an honest conversation until that part of it is recognized.
And that's what even what I was saying earlier, even about the police. Like, I haven't had any experiences like that, but that doesn't mean that it's not true what people are saying.
Right.
It just means from my personal experience, I haven't experienced that either. All the times I've had have been mostly pleasant, except for, a couple of times. And it wasn't really nothing, severe. But I've been profiled, all that kind of stuff too. But it doesn't mean that I think that all police are bad. It's just that's my personal experience. But I do hear people that talk about it, and they have really had no experience with the police. And that's why I think it's like, to me, it's kind of interesting. So I'm like, you hear these things that happen that could or could not be true, and you run into things that could or not be true based on your own experience, and you believe what people are telling you over your own experience.
But not just your experience comes into play, the experience of others. If there's a dog on the corner that bites, and all of my friends have told me that dog bites, just because the dog haven't bit you, when you go around the dog, how you gonna act? You gonna expect the dog to bite you, ain't you? Because you done heard from everybody that this dog bites, right? So in that case, I don't have the experience of getting bit by the dog to know that this dog bites people. You understand what I'm saying?
Right, but that's also the experience they had, and maybe you won't have that same experience. Maybe you're like better with dogs.
But it don't mean that I'm gonna go to. But am I gonna go to the dog and put my hand next to his mouth? No. Am I gonna walk past the dog? No, exactly. The way that I approach the dog is gonna be different. The way that I approach any situation with a dog is gonna be based on the experience of other people who told me that dog bites, ain't it?
Yeah, but also,
I have to gonna alter the way I deal with the dog.
Yes, but I also have to consider, who am I talking to and what kind of person are they? Like that. This is why this is
the dog bites people.
Yeah, but
it don't matter what kind of person they are. The dog bites people.
Okay, warranted. But how do I know that that's their experience or what someone told them like a year ago, and they're just piggybacking what somebody else said? How do I know what they're even saying is true?
If the dog bites, here's the thing: you don't even have to know it's true. Let me ask you this: if you've heard it from enough people, right, different people, enough times that that dog bite, is that going to change the way you respond to this dog? Yes or no?
More than
Yes.
likely, more than likely.
More than like, okay, that's all I need to know. That's all I
More
need
than
to know.
likely.
The answer to that question is yes. And because the answer to that question is yes, we have to take that into consideration, period, across the board.
But
The
that's
answer
also,
to that question is yes.
but that's also
It
why,
does change the way that we respond to the dog.
okay, I'll make it a little clearer. I think it can change the way. It doesn't mean that it has to, because you have the choice of choosing to believe them or not. But it doesn't mean because I heard a group of people say this,
Did you
doesn't mean
change
that
the
it's
way
true.
that you did? Okay, reasonable person standard. You being a reasonable person, right?
Mhm.
Did it change the way you dealt with the dog?
Well, I mean, I'm already kind of afraid of dogs anyway, so I'm not going to be going
Okay.
anyway. Like, I'm more like, oh, hold up. Now, if I had more experience with dogs and more confident, like if I was like Cesar Milan, I would probably not feel that way. But it really depends on my perspective.
One thing that's frustrating when having these conversations is because it's frustrating because you immediately you put yourself in that position and you're like, well, yeah, actually it would change the way. But then all of a sudden you think that you can take yourself out of this situation and then look at it. But you can't, because you just told me before you said, well, it depends, blah, blah, blah. You just told me what your honest, reasonable reaction was, which was, yes, it would change the way that I dealt with the dog.
Yeah.
And then after you said that, pause.
Yeah.
And then after you said that, you're like, well, no, it depends because, well, I don't know, it doesn't have to change, right? And then you start backing up, you know what I mean? And trying to reprove what you just said when you just said it would change the way you dealt with the dog.
Because
all of a sudden you're trying to take yourself out of it. It either does or it don't.
No, because I'm trying to look at all sides. I'm not trying to look at my side as that's just it. I'm trying to see from other perspectives, like, well, in this situation, maybe I would think about it differently. Or maybe if I had a different perspective, I wouldn't. That's what the point of having the backing up to see what else it is. I'm looking at it from a different perspective, so I'm not just going in on one way. That's the point of going back.
But I'm asking you the question.
Yeah, and
I'm asking, the question is directed at you.
Yeah, and
does
that's
it change the way that you deal with the dog?
It
and
might,
if it changes the way that you deal with the dog, right? But you said it did. You said it would change the way that you deal with the dog. So then if it changes the way that you deal with the dog, then why is it that we can't look at other people, right, and say, well, it might change the way that they also deal with the dog because it changed me, right? And you are the person who says, I like to look at all different shades, but your honest reaction, right, in that moment was, yes, it would change. So then everybody else who has interaction, then we need to look at them and say, oh, well, you know what? It might change the way that they look at it too.
Yeah, but that also was answered from a reactive state. I didn't actually consider everything at that point. I said yes, basing off what you just said in the moment. Then I had the moment to think about it. And then I was like, okay, well, maybe it could be. There's a point of I'm reflecting off it, not just going by the reactive state of what I just said. And that's the point. I can believe that the police are all going to shoot all black people, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen. It might happen too. It doesn't mean that it's wrong. But just to believe it because everybody said it, I just don't like that idea of believing it because everybody said it. Some things I might. There's some things I'll probably believe more blindly. And some things I'll have to hit my head and try. But that's just me personally. But that was the point, was I'm showing you that even though I answered something in that moment, I still had time to pull back and reflect on my answer to see if it was true or not, or where could there be flaws in it, or where could I look at it differently? But most people aren't willing to do that. You know what they do? Because everybody told me it's right, and that's it. And then when you try to say anything else, you're wrong. And then you look like the asshole because you're like, I'm just asking questions and looking at it from different perspectives. And that's where I think a flaw comes in, is you're not able to look at it differently because you heard that the dog bites. So you believe that the dog bites, and therefore the dog bites, even though this dog might not have bit anybody.
I didn't say therefore the dog bites. What I said is that the way that I treat this situation is going to be based on the information that this dog may bite me, right?
Right. Okay. But any dog can bite you.
It's the point that I'm making.
Any dog can bite you.
That's the point that I'm making.
But
I specifically made the example about this one specific dog. Yes, any dogs can bite. All dogs have the propensity to bite, right? Just like all cops have the propensity to shoot people, right?
Right.
Okay. But I said that this dog bites.
Okay.
And I've heard from multiple people, right, about multiple situations about them getting bit by this dog, right?
This one dog, yes.
So when I see the dog, I'm going to approach the dog. I'm going to have conversations about this dog, right?
Mhm.
Anything in relation to this dog that I do is going to be done through the lens of what? This dog bites
Well,
people.
someone told you. Yeah, what somebody told you. Yes.
Right.
Right. That's what you're saying. Okay. Which I
And
get.
that's not abnormal, right?
I'm not even saying that's wrong. I don't even think
It's
that's
not,
wrong.
I'm not saying it's right or wrong. What I'm saying is that that's what happens, right?
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah, that's totally fine. I'm not knocking that or saying that's wrong. All I'm saying is you were saying earlier that I said the point of my first point was I would be afraid of the dog, and then I
Mhm.
backed up and then I tried to reprove what I was saying. But the
Mhm.
point was I was looking at it from a better perspective because I had more time to think about the scenario and I wasn't just going to be blindly believing what everybody say. And that's the point, was you can react by what somebody says, but why don't you find out for yourself before you believe there's something to be true or not?
And how would you find out for yourself? Go up and put your hand in the dog mouth?
I can just go and be like, okay, is the dog barking, looking crazy?
That's what
at
I'm
me?
saying. So how would you determine that? There's no way to determine that unless you're the next dog's victim.
Well, no, unless you put your hand to the
Come on, man. Come on, man. There's no way to determine that.
But you see,
But here's the thing. But
Okay.
according to your logic, just because a dog looks at you and growls don't mean he gonna bite you, right?
This is
The
true.
only way that I have to prove for myself that this dog will bite me is if I put my hand in the dog's mouth. How many people are willing to do that?
I don't know.
Nobody. Nobody in their right mind is willing to do
Caesar
that.
Milan will.
That's what I'm saying.
But no.
There's no way to prove that this dog bite unless you go put your hand in.
All I'm saying is like, because you gotta remember, you're talking about
so
dogs.
Then, of course, I'm gonna take the word of somebody who said this. Not even somebody, multiple somebodies.
Mm-hmm.
We got 400 years of somebodies who says that this dog bites.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Okay.
So the only way for me to test this theory is to put my hand in his mouth.
Or get close and see what happens. If he tries to lunge at you, because obviously you're going to be behind the gate.
Here's the thing.
Now,
just because the dog lunges at you doesn't mean he's going to bite you.
But it's much more indication that you've experienced that can prove that, not what somebody just said.
No, because again, the only way to prove it is to put your hand in the dog's mouth and let the dog bite you. That's the only way to prove it.
And
that's
maybe
the only way to prove it. Because things could go wrong all the way up until the time that it goes right. Do you understand what I'm saying? So the only way to prove it is to get bitten by the dog.
Okay.
It doesn't matter if he lunges at you. That's not a bite. It doesn't matter if he barks at you. That's not a bite.
Okay.
A bite is a bite. So the only way to judge if the dog is going to bite you is if you put your hand in the dog's mouth, unless you're going to rely on 400 years of people telling you the dog bite.
But that's the point right there. Is I don't necessarily just believe what people say, even if I have a lot of people saying it. Because just because a lot of people say it,
even if they have history on their side,
that's because a lot of people say it don't make it true.
Even if they have history on their side, I believe you.
And the reason why I can say that, because I watched a lot of people try to cancel Ice Cube, who said a lot of the same thing when they were completely wrong. And that's why I don't like to believe what people say. And maybe that's just more of a me thing. I'm not saying that people should be like this, but just for me personally, I don't believe in just listening blindly and just accepting it like it's true without a little more. You got to give me a story of what happened to you. Did this exactly happen to you? And when did that happen? And what were the circumstances?
I agree with you.
So that this is it. That's all I'm trying to say.
I agree with you about every single topic. I agree with you in that instinct about every single topic except one. And we've talked about this. There's one topic that I'm never going to look at it through that lens.
Okay. Which that's I mean,
you already know. You already know what the one topic is.
I respect that.
I already know what the one topic is. So I'm not. I don't need to back up and look at it through a different lens.
I'm not. Yeah, and I'm not saying.
I don't need to know the history behind the situation because I already know the history behind the situation. I don't need to ask nobody else. I don't need to become a victim of I don't need to become the next black victim to know that white people are racist. I don't need that. You know what I'm saying? I don't need a white person to call me a nigga for me to know that white people are racist. I don't need that.
Okay.
I don't need that.
Right, which is interesting because
I don't need that.
I'm not okay. I'll let it be. I'll let it be as that. Okay, that's warranted.
Stop letting stuff be.
No, it's okay. No, it's okay. It's okay.
Say it. You ain't gonna say it. You ain't gonna say it. Say it.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Don't trip. But but like I said, I understand. I do understand where you're coming from.
Say it.
I understand where you're coming from.
Say it.
I'm not.
Say it.
I'm not ready to say it yet.
Say it.
But
it don't matter. We got like 5 to 10 minutes left. So go ahead and say it.
No, it's okay. It's okay. We'll trust me. It's gonna be talked about again. But
say it.
No.
Come on, Anthony, don't do that. Say it.
It's okay.
I got something to say, but I ain't gonna say it. That's so annoying. That's so annoying. That's so annoying.
No, because low-key, I lost part of my train of thought as well. And so I don't really I remember like a smidget of it, but I don't remember the whole point. So I don't really want to start saying it until I kind of formulate my point. Because like I had something and I was listening and I'm like kind of forgot. I'm like, shit.
That's up there where we need to talk. Right? We need to talk and then turn around and walking away. Like that is annoying.
It's not like that. It's not like that.
Talk about what?
After
we need to talk and then just turn around and walk away.
No, I'm sure it's gonna come back up. I'm sure it will. It's not like nothing.
Well,
crazy.
What do we need to talk about? Now is not the time. What the heck?
No,
I'll talk to you later.
As I was saying, and I forgot the point I was making, so I couldn't really say it because I was like, "Shit," and I already kind of spoke.
I'm just saying, I'm triggered, right? Because I had an emotional reaction to what you just said, and that's brought me back to all the times when somebody was like, "Well, we need to talk." Okay, let's talk. Now is not the time, or we'll talk about it later. Excuse me.
That is something else that's not from me. That's coming up from somewhere else.
No, you triggered it.
Yeah. No. I didn't trigger it. No. I didn't trigger you. You got triggered because
I've been triggered.
No. It wasn't me.
I said I've been triggered.
Yeah, because first you said it was me, but I can say right now, nobody can trigger you unless you allow them to trigger you. So whose fault if you're triggered is the person who is triggered. So you can't blame me. And I know you took it back now, but I got to make that statement because people can say all this shit. That is your choice to be triggered. It's your choice to be angry. It's your choice to be upset.
Agreed. And it's going to be my choice to say goodbye because it's 6:30 and I got to eat before 7. Right? So we got to say goodbye.
Okay. It's 6:30. Dang, it's early.
Yeah, 6:30 and I got to eat before 7. And the more I talk to you, the less time I have to enjoy my meal. I'm going to have to scarf it down. I don't want to.
Well, you got to be somewhere? Oh, for sure. Okay,
no, I just don't eat after 7.
Oh, got you. Okay, for sure. Okay, respect.
So I get real itchy like around 6:15. If I haven't eaten yet, I get nervous.
Oh, you get that hangry, huh?
I get nervous like.
Okay. Before we go, we'll read these last few comments. I just forgot to look at these. Okay, really quick, and then we'll cut off after this. White privilege, right? I forgot that was probably somewhere earlier. My bad. Candy Miller. Another one. Police were overwhelmed by the riots. Okay.
So then, just because the police were overwhelmed does not mean that a random person should take that into their own hands.
I agree with that. I agree with
police do their job.
And for me, I look at it as like it's not my backyard, it's not my house, so I'm probably not going to go around the corner.
This situation don't have nothing to do with you.
I'll even make a good example. When after the George Floyd shooting happened, and like within a few days, I went outside and literally in front, like on my side street, the main street right here, all I hear is bop, 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 bop.
The police shot that little homeless man. Yeah, the police shot the homeless man.
The Mexican dude, right? He was a Mexican dude. Shot him and killed him. He was like a pedophile or something. I don't really know. And then
I don't think he was a pedophile. I think he was homeless.
No. I read he was like a sex offender or a pedophile or something. I don't know exactly. Okay. I found out later that day because I had a friend that worked in the hospital that he died or whatever. And what does that say? And then I see everybody boycotting, and I'm like, and so my street was flooded with people. So I left my house because like I'm not gonna be here and be stuck. Who knows? It was like kind of crazy. It was already kind of not that it was like no riot, something was happening. People were just protesting in the middle of the street. The cops were there. One side was a lot of tension, And I was like, I'm not gonna be here. So I dipped, even from my own neighborhood. I dipped. So I'm not gonna go somewhere that I don't need to be in danger for if I don't have to.
See, that is the white privilege that you do not possess in this situation. All right, next question.
So anyways, I just had to say that. There was a point I was going to make, but I kind of forgot what I was talking. Okay, next one. After another fact you didn't take consideration, it was a riot, not a protest, but business were burning, gunshots, etc. Okay.
I misspoke. Pause. Let's address this because he keeps bringing this up. Okay, I misspoke. It was a riot. Even if it was a riot, that ain't got shit to do with Kyle Rittenhouse. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
We got a few more.
Okay, fine. It was a riot. A riot that don't have shit to do with him. So in this situation,
who is the dog? Black Lives Matter. Oh, the dog situation. I wasn't really.
And who in this situation is the dog? The police is the dog.
Yeah,
the police is the dog.
That's what you were trying. Yeah, that's right. You were saying that because you were saying like I'm not going to go over there and test it. You're pretty much saying I'm not going to
test. I'm not going to test it. I'm not going to see if this police shoot all black people. But I've heard from a number of people, right? From a number of black people over a long amount of years that this particular dog liked to shoot black people. I'm not going to go and test the dog and see if I'm going to get shot next. That was the dog is the police.
Yeah. And then he said, he says, what if the dog doesn't bite?
But I have years of proof that this dog does bite.
Okay, next one. Black people are racist too.
Yes, they are. Pause. Black people are racist too. But black people do not control enough systems to keep anybody out.
Well, they don't. Yeah, I would say, I would agree if you're talking about in the sense of power. Yeah, yes. I would say that's true. There's no black people don't have enough power in the sense of like ownership of things to really influence stuff
to really
at all.
Influence anything, right? Like when white people are racist, it's dangerous because they're the dominant class. When the dominant class is anti anything, it's dangerous. If the dominant class is anti-gay, if the dominant class is anti women, if the dominant class is anti anything, it's dangerous because they can afford to take those viewpoints and use it to exclude the people that they don't like. That's why it's detrimental.
And then he said there's a couple comments before. I'll skip this one because he said not true. But okay. Also, there's another comment.
Y'all, when y'all leave comments, be specific. Like these things are happening so fast. Like what's not true? Like be specific.
This came up right now, so I think is what we're talking about now. But this one came up earlier. This one says, "I tuned in pretty late, but I enjoyed it. Good conversation from both. Much love. Hope you're all doing well. Do you think? Thanks, Wesley. Yeah, he's the homie. I've known him since I've been like 18.
Wesley's 17. A real person. He's got a name behind it.
I've known him for years. So thanks. But shout out to Wesley. You know what I'm saying? Also, shout out to Kenny for coming in the chat.
Shout out to Wesley.
Shout out to Kenny.
I don't know what you're saying is not true, Kenny.
I don't know. I'm assuming he's talking about the. I don't know. I can't even speak. I need to let him say it. We'll give it like another minute, and then I know you got to go. Well, actually, we got to kind of wrap this up, honestly. So I can't really keep reading the comments.
I need to eat. How many more comments are there?
That's it. It says, he says, you're not true, Chantal,
you're racist. I've been called worse. That's fine. I've been called so much worse. That does not bother me at all.
Okay, for sure. But yeah.
That's not true. You're a racist. That's cool.
That sounds like what everybody says. Like that's a term that everybody usually says in general. Because you can say, but white people, you're racist. Black people, you're racist. And low-key, to be honest, I think everyone's a little racist. Let's just be honest. We're all a little racist.
Here's the thing, though, Kenny. If I'm racist, I'm not greatly influencing anybody's life. I'm not keeping anybody from achieving anything.
Mm-hmm.
I can't defer them from anything.
And then he said, hold on. And they said, he said this, but I do love you, Chantal.
After you call me racist. Lies. But it's okay. I don't mind being called racist. I've been called much worse, even though I'm not a racist. But okay.
Yeah, I guess it depends on your perspective, I guess. But yeah, I think this was a good conversation too, Chantal, and I thank you for, sharing your opinion.
You keep trying to get me drawn into these Black Caucus conversations, and I'm on to you.
Me,
Anthony Perkins. I'm on to me.
You. No, I mean, we were really talking about Dave Chapelle. I mean, look. Okay. Then how about this? Okay, Okay, I'm gonna let you go now. But
because it's 6:30.
When we go back live, you will pick the topic we talk about, and I will stay on track to the topic that you say. I will not deviate anywhere. Okay.
And it will have nothing to do.
He said, yes, I love you, but you are racist. Ha ha ha. For sure.
I'm not racist, Kenny. Okay.
I think we're all a little racist, honestly. I'm a little racist. I'm a little racist. But anyways, all right, we got to go. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you, everybody, for commenting. Thank you, the unsung hero, Kenny, unsung hero, Wesley, for tuning in. Kenny's been on pretty much most of the podcast live, so he's like another guest. So shout out to him. And appreciate y'all. So go ahead and like this video. Make sure you hit that like button before you go. Helps the algorithm. And if you want to, go comment on the actual page on the YouTube channel. Go comment on the video. It helps a lot with getting this conversation exposed to everybody else. So until next time, thank you, Chantal. Thank you, Unsung Heroes. We'll be back again soon. I put it in our Instagram when we're going to come back. All right. Love y'all. Peace, love, and hair grease. We out. Unpack Your Bag Podcast. Tony Perks, Chantal. We out. Deuces.